Hello and welcome to this episode of Star Wars Universe Podcast. Riki and Sarah Hayashi are back and they are joining me to talk about Star Wars Rebels. We're picking up where we left off in Season 2. Today we're talking about episodes 5, 6, and 7. All that and more after a commercial break we have no control over. Welcome back. I'm Matthew, your host. Riki, Sarah, so good to have you guys on again. How are y'all doing tonight?
Yeah, it's nice to be back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Ready to be rebelling.
Yeah.
Rebelling?
Rebelling.
I will have you know, we've had a number of people write in and say, like, look, the Book of Boba Fett coverage is great, but where's my Rebels coverage? So I don't know exactly when. I may start interspersing these with Book of Boba Fett. I may just start using these to have a backlog and kind of hit the ground running when Boba Fett ends. It just depends on how much editing time I get, but we'll definitely be getting these out pretty soon.
No spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. No Boba Fett spoilers. I have seen it. You all have not, so we'll be careful of that.
Well, don't tell the listeners that.
Oh,
They'll figure it out soon enough.
I'll cut that out. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I invited that.
Okay.
But it just seems weird to be on a Star Wars podcast, be like, I haven't started watching Boba Fett yet.
There's a lot of Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there. I have not read the comic books. I'm still making my way through the books, but there's a lot that I have not read. So
those comics are great.
I'll give a quick plug. Our friend Jonah Kellman is doing a great podcast called The Archives Are Incomplete, where he's literally giving a review, but also a plot summary of every single book. So if you were like me and not sure that you can get through the purple prose of all of the Legends canon, that's a great podcast to check out. But we are here rebelling. We are doing rebel things. We're watching episodes of Star Wars Rebels. We'll get into each one of them separately because these are all kind of one-off episodes. But overall, what do you all think of these three?
I mean, I'm a big fan of one of them in particular. You get a big guess as to which one. But I mean, like, again, it's Rebels. I love it all. I don't think I've got any complaints. And yeah, the obviously the Hondo episode I'm beyond thrilled about.
Well, I, for one, love Sith. And we get some Sith. I mean, we get some new Inquisitors. We had seen one of them kind of here and there, but here they do their Inquisiting.
Yeah, I feel like this 3-episode arc, I mean, it's not an arc, it's 3 individual episodes, but it just sort of perfectly captured all the things I love about this show. You know, because it does have some of the overall world building and like story arc of the Inquisitors coming, as you're talking about, Riki. We get some of the kind of like, you know, Kanan's struggle to train Ezra and all of them trying to find their place in the larger alliance and the battle against the Empire. And then we get some of the ridiculousness. And frankly, I think the Hondo-Ezra relationship may be one of my absolute favorites. And just, I mean, Hondo was so good in Clone Wars. We had so much fun talking about him. But I feel like the writers just kind of got him more than we'd ever. And this episode especially, it just hits all the notes. So yeah, between the Rex and Kanan stuff, there's just so much I love. Like, I'm sure we can find some things to nitpick, but I just love these 3 episodes so much.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't really talk about the episode 7 where they get the B-Wing introduced, but...
Yeah, well, so yeah, I love Sith and I love tech.
There you go.
And getting the origin of the B-Wing.
Yep.
It is amazing. Oh my goodness. And and we get to see the what do they call it? The
like prawny shooting
laser thing.
Yeah.
Although, does it ever use that in the movies?
No.
Okay, I have some issues about that, but let's get to that when we get to episode 7. Let's start with episode 5, though, and for folks who've either not seen these for a long time or just, you know, you haven't seen them, you want to just kind of live vicariously through us, let's give you a quick plot summary. So I will read this one. Episode 5, Always Two There Are. Zen, Sabine, and Chopper, with Ezra volunteering himself to avoid Kanan and Rex, head out to an old Republic medical base in search of vital medical supplies, only to be encountered by the 7th sister and the 5th brother, who we learn are other Inquisitors. The 7th sister captures Ezra and interrogates him about the whereabouts of Ahsoka Tano, while Sabine is also captured by the 5th brother. Zeb and Chopper eventually rescue them, and they all barely escape the Inquisitors and head back to the Rebel fleet, where Ezra pointedly questions Kanan about the extra Inquisitors, who I will add to this plot summary, and Kanan has no answers, and they're all very concerned. So yeah, what'd you think?
And we want to start off with the title right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Yoda.
This title is BS.
Oh.
I mean, it's a reference, right? Always two there are is what Yoda says at the end of The Phantom Menace.
Right.
Where they're referring to the Sith and the fact that Obi-Wan defeated Darth Maul. And he's, I think...
Defeated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, bisected him.
Wow. Yeah.
Dropped him down a shaft.
Literally defeated. Yes, correct.
Defeated, yeah.
But Yoda, I think, is talking to
Mace
one or the other.
Windu?
Oh, yeah, probably Mace. And says, always two there are with the Sith, a master and an apprentice. And then Mace is like, but which one was this? Which one was defeated?
Mm-hmm.
So it's referencing the Sith, but I think technically the Inquisitors are not Sith. I mean, this is all questionable, right? Like,
yeah,
because this rule of two just has never made sense to us.
Yeah.
And here we go. Like here they are referencing the rule of two, introducing two Inquisitors to us, but they're 7 and 6. So
7 and 5.
7 and 5. So I mean, there's at least 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus 1. I mean, unless
the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah, they refer. I think this is the first time they refer to last season's character as the Grand Inquisitor.
Didn't he refer to himself as the Grand Inquisitor?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
And I should say, we later learn that these are their names, and they may even be in the credits, but they don't use the words seventh sister and fifth brother in the episode itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I just mentioned this podcast, and now I'll kind of reference it again. In that podcast, Jonah's podcast, The Archives Are Incomplete, he actually was talking about this a lot because he's reviewing right now the book Darth Plagueis, which he's doing the Legends canon. It's not officially canon the way this show is, but it's close enough, I think, on this issue. And one of the things that he goes into that I think we've talked about as well is that on the one hand, I think, you can officially sort of see it as the only two there are is the Darths, Master and Apprentice, and so maybe they can have other Force users running around. But in theory, I think the idea is if no one heard Darth Maul called Darth Maul, they just knew he had Force powers and used a red lightsaber, and the dark side of the Force. Excuse me, sorry, COVID throat still. But one of the points Jonah was making is the rule of two is kind of basically observed in all the exceptions people make for it. That almost everyone seems to find some way to claim that the thing they want to do is kind of okay with the rule of two. So, yeah, I don't know if I can give the writers enough credit to know if they were intentionally trying to reference the fact that the rule is nonsense, or if they're just like, well, there's two of them, so it's sort of true.
I think the whole Inquisitor line and them being numbered is kind of a jab at the rule of two.
Right. Well, and that is... specifically in that book, Plagueis, who's training Sidious, the two of them both believe that by taking over the Republic, they can end the rule of two. That the rule of two will no longer be needed because now the rule of two is all about hiding from the Republic and the Jedi, and now the Republic and the Jedi have been wiped out, so you're okay.
That's fair. Yeah, and I think it's also just a fun callback line to the fact that now there are two Inquisitors after you, and also maybe Darth Vader still. Who's mentioned but not seen, because the fact that there are two of them seem to be a big surprise to Ezra and Kanan and kind of everybody on board, the whole Ghost crew,
except for Ahsoka. So they ask at the end of the episode, do you think Ahsoka knows about these other Inquisitors? And if you read the book Ahsoka, she does, because she defeats two of them, and that's how she gets her new lightsabers.
And so let's talk about the two of them. What do you think of how the character's introduced? The fifth brother is he seems just kind of like muscle. He's not really. We mostly get the seventh sister, who has this very interesting way of interacting with Ezra. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I like the fifth brother. Seems very cold and metallic, even as far as his character design. I'm not sure what species he is, but he's got gray metallic skin. He seems very cold, down to business kind of bounty hunter. But yeah, the Seven Sisters cool. We're first introduced to her. She's wearing a mask and has like a robot-y kind of voice modulation. And then she like removes her mask. And she's like, nobody that we know. Still kind of has a little bit of that. I think I originally thought that she was going to be the apprentice of...
Yeah, Luminara's.
Yeah, Luminara's apprentice, who, like, backstabbed Ahsoka back in Clone Wars. But, like, because she's got vague similarities to her. I don't think she is. I forget, though, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. She's neat. She's got a lot of fun personality. She seems, like, along the lines of Ventress in that sort of cutthroat femme fatale.
Barra Sophie.
Yeah.
I thought she might be. She's not. I think she's supposed to maybe be of the same race. And yeah, she has this very like, not little girl voice as though she's not a grown woman. She is, but it's that kind of like breathy, flirty. Like she seems very much like she's trying to be his friend. You know, it's like Ezra. Like, and it's very different from the Grand Inquisitor. And I like seeing different personalities. You know, I like seeing that they have these different perspectives, even though she's clearly just as malevolent and just as evil.
Oh yeah, like she's trying to be friends with them, but she's also like, I'm gonna kill you, LOL. Like, yeah, we're gonna kill your friends, maybe. She also kind of reminded me of the Night Sisters, and that could just be like the vocal modulation thing with like how the Night Mother has like weird reverb background voice. But just the kind of like spooky mysteriousness about her.
And
what? Good.
Well, I was just gonna comment that the voice actress for the Seventh Sister is Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, that's why she was familiar.
Yes, of Buffy the Vampire.
All right, she's got like vague Buffy qualities. Neat.
And she, so the character also uses droids, like these kind of like small spider droids that go around and do spying for her, which was kind of the only thing in this episode that I didn't really understand. When the Phantom crew arrives at the hospital, they're going around in the dark, and then Chopper gets ambushed by one of these droids. And it's like, why was that droid here at this hospital? Does she just have like droids interspersed around everywhere?
Maybe. I mean, like they were doing a medical supplies run, right? So she could know that those are like hot spots that rebels, etc. may be interested in.
They were being followed or something like that. Yeah. I think we're supposed to think that the Grand Inquisitor would often show up places where you had no idea how he knew to be there. And I think we're supposed to have this just sort of sense of ominousness of like, how do they get there? You know, they're always one step ahead of us. This is so dangerous. But you're right. Like this one especially was a little eyebrow raising of how they get there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the Empire's clearly monitoring the station because like as soon as the rebels break in, you know, they get an alert and they tell Callus like, hey, there's some activity on one of these ships. Do you want to check it out? And he's like, no, it could be nothing. Who knows? So it's like clearly on their radar. So maybe she just has like a whole bunch of these droids. And the droid like makes a call and she answers it. And she's like, BRB, or like, be right there. Yeah. And she shows up slightly before the fifth brother who is like on the ship with Callus and is like, it's not nothing. I use my mystical sense powers. And they're like, aw, you wackos in your religion.
And
yeah, I do like at one point one of the Imperial generals refers to like them as mystics, and we're seeing more of this tension that is going to carry through all the way to the people on the Death Star and Darth Vader and A New Hope between like the military and the mystics, and I like seeing that.
Yeah, especially it seems like so quickly, like the Jedi are things that they're actively hunting down right now, but they're still like wacky force powers. Is that even a thing? Who's to say?
Yeah, wait until you get choked.
Yeah, it's kind of like the one fatal I mean, there's many fatal flaws in this regard, but like it's the one, you know, a huge problem of the Clone Wars is the way that the Jedi are set up in A New Hope, the original movies, it doesn't make sense that they existed only 20 years ago. Like it had to be 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And so everything now has to deal with that. And at this point, I just kind of continuously roll my eyes to it.
Yeah.
I will say one quick thing. the droids they're all kind of like miniature versions of the probe droid that goes to Hoth in Empire Strikes Back. And I sort of find myself having a little bit of affection for them because I'm now playing Star Wars Battlefront 2. Very few. I will spoil the very beginning of it in that you start off playing as an Imperial agent who has one of those droids helping you, and it's very cute, and you become sort of attached to it. So like, oh, okay, little probe droid. You're helping the Empire. That's terrible, but still. You know.
I mean, like all droids are good droids. It's kind of my, I don't know. I've got a droid affection, especially, and I really like. Speaking of droids, the relationship between Ezra and Chopper. How it's like getting less antagonistic and more like Ezra's warming to Chopper and his grumpy antics.
Definitely, definitely.
Appreciate.
He says specifically he's like trying to learn his language, or he doesn't say like he's trying to learn what Chopper means.
Yeah, whereas like Zeb still has no idea what Chopper's on about, and like has been with him longer, and Zeb just like I don't know, seems to not care and is just constantly annoyed by Chopper.
Yeah. One also thing I thought was really interesting about the way they introduced the brother and sister is that the two are definitely rivals. Like at one point, there's a whole thing about like which one of them gets credit for the kill, and like he's going in to hit Ezra with his lightsaber, and she blocks him with hers. Like, I'm really enjoying seeing that like they're working together, but they definitely have a lot of that Sith antagonism, and everybody wants to be on top.
Yeah, I don't even know if like working together is the right word. They have the same goal, right? And they're like on the same side, but yeah, like you're saying, they're clearly like very antagonistic towards each other.
Right. I just mean like they showed up together. You know,
sure. Well, they didn't even show up together, right? Like she was there before him, and he was like all upset that she got there first.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, this is a constant theme we are seeing with the Empire is not working together. I mean, the same thing happens when they get the message on the Star Destroyer. The fifth brother says, no, I'm going to go off my own, when Callus offers to take the Star Destroyer to the base. And obviously, like, that would have probably been a big help.
Yeah.
But, he doesn't want to work with Callus. The sister doesn't want to work with the brother. Everyone is out for themselves. And this is, you know, common trope in a lot of media is that evil doesn't win because good, you know, has teamwork.
Yeah.
Where evil is selfish.
I mean, one irony here is that, as a little bit established in the movies, but also established very much in the books, in the canon, the new canon books as well as the legend books, this dynamic is one big part of why the rule of two was established. Because the idea is that if you have like hundreds of Sith trying to work as a team, they're all so individualistic. They're all going to be backstabbing each other and murdering each other. And so, yeah, it's kind of funny seeing like this is the whole point why you don't have lots and lots of dark side Force users getting in each other's way.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of all to say about this episode. The one last thing I just wanted to give a shout out to was the ominous music at the end. Like when Kanan is saying, like, I don't know anything about them. We cut to the very much like the dark side Force music. So that made me really happy. Yeah,
wasn't it the Imperial March? Or like some variation of the Imperial March?
Yeah, I think it's a variation.
Yeah.
Variations. Yeah. No, I mean, it's neat. And I like that they leave it hanging with like, that does Ahsoka know about it or not?
Right.
Because, yeah, I mean, it still feels like a very real threat, even though they have joined up with the rest of Phoenix Squadron, right? They're not just on their own anymore. They're still in a whole bunch of danger.
Right. Well, because none of the rest of Phoenix Squadron are Jedi.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and even Ahsoka, like, in part because she's not going out in the field as much, but she's not being hunted in quite the same way. Mm-hmm. Although we do hear in this episode, the sister specifically says, like, she's interested in Ezra, but mostly she wants to find Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And one of the best things about this series in comparison to Clone Wars is that ominous ending where Kanan says, I don't know, is going to get followed up on. It's going to lead to other storylines and plots where he now has to go on a journey of discovery to find out more and to discover more about the Jedi and the Sith.
Yeah. And I think that's true. And one other thing that I wasn't sure if I was going to comment on this episode because it's a big part of the next episode. But again, in that kind of setting things up, we get a little bit of Rex and Kanan, who clearly both have different ideas of what they think Ezra should be doing. And that's going to be a big part of the next episode. So should we move on to that one, or is there anything else on this one you want to mention?
Yeah.
I just want to say a quick thing about the fifth brother. I believe I read that his character design was actually based on a concept drawing for the episode 3 movie, Revenge of the Sith. And he was potentially going to be like another Sith character in that movie.
Oh, interesting.
Cool.
I can see that. Nice. It's fun seeing that they're kind of like bringing that back. All right, episode 6. One of you want to read the
Sarah
plot
wants
summary?
to read this.
I want to. I love it. Ezra deceives... blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm too excited. Here we go. Ezra receives a distress signal from Vizago's ship. Ezra and Chopper decide to see what's happened. When Ezra and Chopper arrive at the ship, they find out that the ship has been taken over by my one true love, Hondo Ohnaka. I'm sorry, you knew what this was. They find out that Vizago has been captured inside the ship, and Ezra helps him get it back. There's a little, there's more than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the
there's a lot of the kind of, like, if you remember Hondo from the Clone Wars, there's a lot of the, like, every backstab is going to be followed by another backstab, by another backstab.
But
Hondo,
also with a smile and like a...
Yeah.
Good for you.
I think the other like really important plot point is that Hondo offers Ezra, Ezra kind of pulls a couple fast ones on Hondo, which makes Hondo goes, you lied to me? I love it.
Yeah.
And he wants Ezra to join his crew as a pirate. He, by the way, thinks that Ezra is Lando Calrissian, or at least is claiming to. We'll talk about how much Hondo believes him. And the start of the episode had been Rex and Kanan kind of fighting over making Ezra think, should he be a soldier or should he be a Jedi? He spends part of the episode thinking, maybe I want to run away from it, like literally run away and join the circus, except the circus being pirates. And by the end, he realizes, no, I don't want to be a pirate. I want to be a Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you're saying, there's some of this like Rex versus Kanan antagonism at the end of the last episode and like during the last episode. And yeah, Ezra is like really upset because he's got like practice with Rex, he's got practice with Kanan, and he's got Hera also saying like, plus you have to clean the ship. You have other duties as well. So like they fly off and do some cool mission. It's him and Chopper, which is a nice like pairing, and like that I think I like Ezra and Chopper together. When they're supposed to be cleaning a ship when they receive this distress signal from Vizago, and they're like, oh well, yeah, Ezra's like, better stop doing manual labor and go answer this distress signal.
Yeah,
this is at one point. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's part of Hera's secret Jedi training, making him clean the ship.
Yeah.
we just finished Cobra Kai season 4 recently.
Okay.
And I was like, he needs to do wax on, wax off.
A good chores-based training regimen. Yeah.
I like it. I have a lot of thoughts on Cobra Kai season 4 that I will be getting to.
Yeah, and I was just gonna mention another like plot point. Yeah, so they get to the ship. Lando introduces himself, right? I'm Lando Calrissian, which is an alias Ezra's used before.
Right.
I think it's like his go-to alias now.
Well, it used to be Jabba the Hutt.
Yes. Yeah. And then Hondo explains that he won this ship from Vizago in a game of Sabacc. He also won his droids. Look, I have this thing. The droids turn on and I can turn them right back off again. Don't worry about it. And it seems like the ship's on autopilot to go do a meetup to sell some power generators. To who? To Az Morgan, of course. Voiced by James Hong, who's like A+ super great. And it's nice to see Az Morgan again. The deal goes a little sideways. Ezra ends up using some force powers. Hondo picks up on it. And this is where, the jig is up on Lando Calrissian, because Az Morgan recognizes that he is not Lando Calrissian. He's the guy who screwed him over last deal.
Well, so that's a good place I want to start. Do you think Hondo ever did actually believe that this is Lando? Yeah.
Heck no.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, yeah, he even says, he's like, oh, you're the famous Lando Calrissian. Oh, neat. You're younger than I expected, but welcome, Lando. Welcome, my friend. Right? Yeah, there's no way he actually believes it, but
yeah,
he's willing to go along with it.
for those folks who didn't see the Clone Wars, or we keep talking about how great he is, but like, let's just do a kind of introduction for those who didn't see the Clone Wars and didn't watch this episode. How would you describe Hondo Ohnaka? Why is he, you know, husband do? Like, what is the what makes him
why?
such a great character?
He's fictional. He's like pirate with heart of gold. So like, he introduces himself as a pirate. He used to be a pirate.
I wouldn't even say heart of gold.
Why not heart of gold?
Like he literally kidnapped
that was
Obi-Wan
one
and
time. One time he kidnapped and threatened to murder a bunch of children. It's fine. He also has jokes.
I think he's a Jack Sparrow pirate. Like he's he's not like he's not hard. I wouldn't say I don't know. It's not that he's like purely benevolent, but he's also not pure. Like he's very much not Cad Bane. He's very different than that. It's just that he's sort of like he's having so much fun that a lot of times it's like, well, I could kill kids, but this is more fun, you know. Like he doesn't have huge moral compunctions against things, but he does have a very strong loyalty to his friends.
Mm-hmm.
But also the sort of like he just assumes everyone's going to backstab him, and it's like we saw him in the Clone Wars. His troops betray him, and he's like, how can you do this? I'm so proud of you.
Yeah,
you know,
I taught you so well.
Yeah, like he wants to always swindle everybody, but he also just kind of loves being in on the game. On some level, you know.
Like, he seems like he's got this, like, true neutral alignment, right? Where he's just, like, he's in it for himself, but he's also there to have a good time along the way.
Right.
And, like, I think even in... So the episode we referred to, it's a Clone Wars episode. He ends up kind of mistakenly kidnapping a bunch of Jedi younglings. He's really in it for their Kyber crystals, because those are going to sell for a whole bunch of credits on the black market. And then, like, it's a multi-part episode, but by the end of the episode... I think he even says something like, I'm not going to hurt these kids. And Ahsoka's like, you were literally threatening to murder them yesterday. And he's like, change my mind. It's fine. Yeah. And like, he doesn't kill Vizago, right? He's just locked him in the brig of his own ship. I think he very easily could have just murdered Vizago and taken his ship, but he didn't, you know? And when Ezra finds Vizago and lets him out, Hondo's like, jig's up. Yeah. I see you got me. Whatever. It's fine. Bye. Yeah.
Yeah. I think part of his thing is he loves plots. He loves traps. And the point, like, he loves trapping people, but he also kind of loves being trapped just because he wants to know what happens. And that's kind of my take on him. He's like, this guy's clearly not Lando. But why is he calling himself Lando? I don't know. I don't care. Along, yeah. You know?
Let's go along with it. Yeah.
Hondo would be the perfect improv actor. You know, he's never going to say no to anything. Like, whatever crazy thing, he's going to go along with it.
Oh, yeah. He's a yes and. That's, yeah. For sure. Yeah. And I mean, like, he wants to make a buck. He wants to swindle his way there. And, like, yeah, but he's so charming along the way. Right? Like, he's always calling you my friend. He's always got, like, a fun joke in his back pocket. When you betray him, he's going to laugh and say, like, good job. Right? Like,
part of why it works so well in this episode is the two people he's swindling, Vizago and, I want to call him As Morgan.
Yeah.
As Morgan, thank you. You know, there's a reference to Mad Morgan is what I keep hearing in my head. But yeah.
Wait, you mean Mad Mardigan?
Yes, thank you.
From Willow?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Both of these two have been introduced to us as not really reputable characters themselves either. So there's definitely a sort of like everyone's just stealing from each other and you're all just scum and villainy, like whatever, you know?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like even when Ezra answers the call to go save Vizago, there's this kind of like, if he weren't doing like manual labor, I don't think he'd be so willing to go answer this distress call, right? Yeah. He's just like, you know, like, I better go do it. I better stop mopping the ship. And I think we also get like a nice moment with Vizago as well that like ties up a loose end with Vizago cashing in his "you will do anything for me" with Ezra, which is a nice callback. Yeah, like from season 1, I think it was, when Ezra's trying to get Kanan back, he makes this deal that he will do literally anything for Vizago if he helps get Kanan back, which he does. Right. And I think Hera's super pissed because it's like, Vizago is not a guy you want to have something over you, right?
Yeah.
But that's cleared up now. We're good.
that's such kind of a great way also to jump into, like, as funny and as awesome as Hondo is, this is a pretty serious episode in terms of Ezra's, development.
Mm-hmm.
And let's start with kind of the Rex and Kanan of it all, because it's represented as Kanan wants him to work on his lightsaber skills, Rex wants him to work on his, like, blaster firing skills, but it really comes down to this question of, like, is he going to be a soldier or a Jedi? And obviously there's this larger tension between Kanan and Rex. What do you think is going on there?
Well, I mean, we obviously know the tension of Kanan doesn't like clones.
Right.
Because of Order 66. For, like, legit reasons. Yeah. And then I think Kanan also feels threatened by Ezra having a new mentor. Because, like, I don't think Kanan's super secure in his position as Ezra's mentor to begin with. And like, Rex is, like, army guy, gonna train you. Tactical training's important. It's important to be a soldier. I can't imagine anyone not being a soldier.
Right. It's not just that, though. I mean, Rex had a relationship with Anakin Skywalker, and he constantly references the Jedi general that I worked with, right? So he has this vision of what a Jedi should be, and how they should act, and how useful they are in combat. And to him, I think Kanan is just a kid. Right, because he was just a kid when the Clone Wars happened. Rex is going to know that just based on his age. Be like, you're a Padawan who never completed your training. I don't trust you as a Jedi.
I definitely think that's part of it, but I think the other part of it is he also, I mean, remember what happens to Anakin. I think on some level he doesn't trust the Jedi. Like, he has some of that. I don't think it's as much as Kanan because he was with Ahsoka, as we found out at the end of Clone Wars. But I do think he saw Anakin fall, and so that may also be part of why he's like, maybe this guy being a soldier is going to be better.
Yeah, and I think, like, Ezra's also the perfect candidate for this being pulled both ways. Even if we, like, think about his lightsaber, like, his lightsaber is half lightsaber, half blaster, right?
Right.
Well, what do you mean by Rex saw Anakin fall?
Doesn't Rex... Oh, God. Does Rex not know that Anakin becomes Darth Vader?
No. I mean, as far as Rex is concerned, he probably thinks that Anakin fell during Order 66.
Oh,
because
you're right.
he was with Ahsoka, and that ending of the Clone Wars happens at the same time as Revenge of the Sith. So, like, and Ahsoka like doesn't know either.
Well, she definitely
until this series.
Yeah, I mean, I think she suspects now, and you're right. Like, she might have told Rex, but she hasn't really talked about it to anyone. So yeah, no, okay. So I take all that back. Yeah, so I think Ricky, it's probably all the stuff that both you are bringing up. And just going further with that, like, I know we keep talking about how he wants to escape the manual labor. I think there's another part of it is that I think he also wants to go off and help Vizago, because this is a way for him not to have to figure his own stuff out, you know? And there's actually a great line that I so related to, where I think someone confronts him about that, and it's like, you can't just kind of run away from the figuring this out. And he says, I'm not running away from my problems, I'm simply helping someone else with theirs. And the number of times when I didn't want to deal with my own garbage, and I was like, my friend, I'm going to talk to you. How are you doing? Don't ask me about me. How are you? Let's talk about you. Like, yeah, I can relate to that so hard.
Oh, for sure. And I think even when, like, at the end of the episode, Ezra tells Hondo, like, in another lifetime, I definitely would have joined you and been a pirate with you, right? Like, I think it's him confronting his own stuff in some way. But yeah, like, he says to Rex and to Kanan, like, what if I don't want to be either a Jedi or a soldier? Like, gosh, like, screw you, Dad, so I'm going off. I don't want to be what you want me to be, right?
Yeah. And Ezra references the fact that he used to be someone like Hondo Ohnaka. Like, the Ezra who in the first season was really rebelling, no pun intended, was kind of like fighting back against the idea of joining this team because he was just out for himself. Like, that one would have been he would have been a perfectly good fit for Hondo's team back then. And so I think, in some ways he doesn't really resolve the Rex versus Kanan thing, but he does resolve the, like, this is like fully closing the door on that chapter of his life.
Yeah.
Any other last thoughts on this episode?
Any other last thoughts on
Hondo's
Hondo
great.
Ohnaka?
I love Hondo the most.
Okay.
He's wonderful. Yeah.
Hondo is pretty great.
I would have joined Hondo's crew. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what I love.
Mm-hmm.
It's Starfighters.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Starfighters, because there's an A-wing, there's an X-wing, there's a Y-wing, there's a U-wing. Is there one I'm forgetting?
That's your prompt. Now you say B-wing.
What is the U-wing?
Oh, okay. You are not with it. In Rogue One, you remember like the troop carrier ship that they use?
Oh, okay.
That's called a U-wing, and it's shown up in a lot of the video games now.
All right. Well, that's not really a starfighter, though.
Yeah,
really...
it's a support ship. It's like it's not an attack helicopter. It's like a Huey helicopter.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Episode 7 is when you want to read the episode summary.
Absolutely. So episode 7, Wings of the Master. Phoenix Squadron tries to break an Imperial blockade in order to provide food supplies to those who need it. But their transport is destroyed and the mission fails. Hera is then tasked to go to a planet whose atmosphere is very difficult to fly in to get a ship being built by a Mon Calamari named Quarry that can break the blockade. After nearly crashing her shuttle, Hera manages to convince Quarry to let her pilot the ship, called the Blade Wing, or B-Wing for short. With the Blade Wing's firepower, Hera manages to single-handedly destroy one of the Imperial blockade ships, allowing the Ghost to break the blockade and deliver the needed supplies.
So yeah, talk about starships. What do you like about this episode?
It's the B-Wing. So the B-Wing showed up in episode 6, Return of the Jedi, in the big Endor space battle. And it was kind of just like, along with the A-Wing, was the new thing, right? So like in terms of movie starfighters, we started with the X and the Y-Wings in A New Hope. And then I guess we got the Snow Speeders in Empire Strikes Back. And then we get the B-Wing and the A-Wing in Return of the Jedi. And like everyone, kids back then had all these toys and stuff. So this is the origin story of a classic movie starfighter.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that I love when prequels do. Where they're not adding new... Well, they do the one thing I don't like, which is when all of a sudden a ship has a new power that it didn't use in the main movie. And we'll get to that. But yeah, mostly it's just filling in some of the details. It's telling you more about a piece of equipment instead of necessarily a person. And I think it's a great kind of use of prequel like that. I also do think that calling it the Blade Wing is kind of a nice little bit of a retcon, because, the X-Wing looks like an X. The Y-Wing looks like a Y. The B-Wing, you really gotta squint to make it look like a B. I sort of see why they call it that, but having it be the Blade Wing instead of it just being because it looks like a B makes a lot more sense, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, like a lowercase b kind of, but yeah.
Or you had to draw like the rounded portions of the B on top of the wings, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fun to see it in the atmosphere and how it lands, because that was not something we ever got originally. It was just a space fighter, and quite frankly, I don't actually believe that it would fly in an atmosphere, but whatever.
Yeah.
But this if it can fly in that atmosphere, it can fly anywhere.
Oh, yeah. I did think that the crashing in the crazy atmosphere and then going to meet this kind of kooky person who can get there's definitely a little bit of a Yoda reference and Dagobah reference there that I really liked.
Mm-hmm. Or even just go to the mountaintop and meet the mystical old wise man.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Who was voicing Quarry? Do you know? It doesn't say here in the episode summary.
Ooh, maybe I can find out.
Yeah, it's the voice actor who did Count Dooku in the Clone Wars. Corey Burton, I think.
Okay, that's why I kind of recognize the voice.
All this clicking is me attempting to look it up.
But yeah, Quarry, I love this character because he's a Mon Calamari, but he's got a mustache, and it's why does this crustacean man have a mustache? It was just not? I don't know.
Look, in the Orville, there's a character who his race doesn't have facial hair, but he asks to have his follicles stimulated so that he can have facial hair because it just looks cool. And so, that technology is now introduced into an Orville/Star Trek world, so I'm going to assume that it exists here as well.
Well, and it's not even like really hair. Actually, it kind of is, huh?
It looks like hair.
I
it's
thought
just
it was
a
like
mustache.
whale, like baleen kind of.
I think that's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah. Okay, so help me out, Riki, because I know you do care about continuity, and you clearly love this ship and this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they introduce this power that the ship that looks like it's like pretty good, like taking on capital ships, that we never saw used in Return of the Jedi?
Okay, so I mean, this is me just speculating, but they talk about the fact that so talking about this starfighter, it has like gun emplacements on each of the 4 endpoints.
Right.
And then in this episode, we see it shoot almost Death Star style. Like the 4 endpoints shoot into a midpoint in the middle in front of the ship, and it converges into like a super beam. And a starfighter is able to destroy an Imperial cruiser. But Quarry mentions that the gun draws so much power that it damaged the hyperdrive. Right? So in this episode, they end up using a backup hyperdrive, installing it on the... Is the Ghost the shuttle?
The Phantom.
The Phantom?
Yeah.
Carrying the B-Wing into battle. So I'm guessing that they never quite solved this problem of the power that this laser beam uses, and maybe they just uninstall it from future versions because they're like, the hyperdrive is more important. We need to be able to fly in and out of battles.
Right.
And speaking of, right, like I think it's important that Quarry adds the hyperdrive to the Phantom, so now the Phantom has a hyperdrive, which is
right, which is also going to be very cool. Yeah. No, okay,
Wait.
I can buy.
Okay, yeah.
What were you waiting?
Well, I was like, in the last episode, does that mean that when Ezra leaves the ship, he doesn't go through hyperspace? Vizago is just having problems in the upper atmosphere.
Close enough by.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean the shuttle at the end, the shuttle gets back because Chopper programmed it to just go back.
Okay.
And that's why Hondo ends up back with the rest of the crew. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway. But yeah, I mean I like Quarry and his like weird eccentricness. The fact that he's like, I need the perfect pilot. Oh, me, I don't fly planes. No, that's too dangerous. No, none of that stuff for me, thanks.
He's a less annoying version of Gascon.
Yes.
And it may be that the voice actor is the same as well.
Okay. And I'll also say, one thing he says is like, at the end, they're like, oh my God, this is so good. He says, the ship was made by the pilot. Not like the ship was made as good as it was. And I like that because what this winds up also being is a Hera episode, which we haven't had very many of. And she's such a great character. And what I like about it is not only do we get her, but we get a lot of her backstory. We learn why she became a pilot.
Yeah, and talking about her, she doesn't talk about her family specifically, but like we know her last name. I feel like you could like tie her to like Cham Syndulla in some way if you know that.
Who was a leader of the Twi'lek rebels during the Clone Wars when like and was very kind of involved in like fighting for a free and independent Twi'lek
Ryloth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like she talks about being on Ryloth and watching pilots up ahead and how she wants to be up there and she feels most comfortable as a pilot. And even like Kanan kind of like volunteers her to go do this job. Right? It's like, oh, Harry, you're doing it. You're the best pilot. She's like, what? No. Why? What? No. It's like, yeah. And even like the folks around Phoenix Squadron are saying like nobody's flown out of the atmosphere on whatever Quarry's planet is. Shantipole. Ooh, mystical. Yeah, but I mean, it's good, and I like what you were saying, Matthew, about how Quarry kind of acknowledges like the reason the plane, it's not really a plane, starship is so good is because of the person flying it. Like, it's her talents that made it amazing.
Yeah. And I think we've talked some about how sometimes she's kind of relegated a bit to mom role or like support role. So yeah, getting to see her be like a fighter pilot and be badass was just, I really appreciated it.
Yeah, and then like at the end she gets a bit of a promotion too, which is really really nice, and it's nice to see like the rest of Phoenix Squadron acknowledging that Hera's awesome. Hera's super good.
That bothered me a little bit.
Oh,
because she's leading the mission at the beginning of the episode, and in addition to the transport we mentioned getting destroyed, as they try to escape, Phoenix Leader is also shot down. So she kind of pushed the agenda when they were like, no, we should turn back. She's like, no, we can make it. And then she ends up getting Phoenix Leader killed and then takes a spot.
I suppose that's a fairly dark way of looking at it, but the facts might actually line up to support that story. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, she doesn't say, well, I guess I'll be Phoenix Leader now. Like,
sure,
she gets kind of nominated for that. But
and she that's legitimately is the best person for the position.
And in fairness, this isn't a mission where she's like, I want to go do this because I want to be a badass pilot. It's, we need to break this blockade in order to feed these starving people. So,
yeah, which, like, Callus kind of, Agent Callus, he's like, we get a cut to him and he's like, those darn rebels always wanting to help people. Like, my dude, you have to know you're the baddies, like, saying something like that, right? Anyway.
Yeah, they're trying pretty hard to remind us that Callus doesn't have a mustache to twirl, but they're kind of taking him into mustache twirling. He has the sideburns. He's a sideburn twirler. So, yeah, just kind of a really fun episode. Any other last things to say about this one?
Callus, I think, was a good villain here, as usual. Succeeds in the beginning of rebuffing their attempt to break the blockade, and then has a great moment that I liked visually when the B-Wing is making its attack run on the Imperial cruiser, and does the four beams converging. It cuts to Callus, and his eyes go wide, and he's like, oh no, like he has this look on his face like he knows what's about to happen. He's like, shit.
Yeah.
Shoot.
It says something about how, granted, some people absolutely love and adore animation. It's not always my thing, but it says something about just how good the animation here is, that my first reaction, Riki, what I wanted to say is, yeah, the actor gives a great reaction shot. It's like, no, okay. I mean, the character does, but it's the animator, it's not an actor who does it. But yeah, it's phenomenally done, and you're right, it totally conveys just like, I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah, and even just like comparing the animation of like here to season 1, like you can tell they're really upping the budget on it, and it's like, it's
well,
great.
The shots on Shantipole
it's
were
gorgeous.
Beautiful because they're up on like this rocky outcropping, and you can't even see the ground beneath it, and it's just like fog, like a dense fog that she flies through when she's testing out the B-Wing.
It's like a bunch of like hoodoos with like clouds between them. It's really cool.
It's really well done.
I like that we constantly get this like mixing up of characters. So I like that it was Zeb, Sabine, and Hera that went to Shantipole, because it's like, right, like it's nice that we're not always seeing the same folks stick together. Like we've had Sabine and Hera go off on their own thing, but I like that, like what Zeb and Sabine added to the kind of interactions between Corey and Hera, right, where Zeb is his typical like pessimistic gruff self, and Sabine's like, oh, you say this needs a new paint job, do you? Right? Like she's a little more optimistic, whereas Zeb's like, well, we're all dead now. Great.
And she's optimistic, she contributes ideas, and then when it comes to the final battle, Hera has to coordinate what Hera's doing with the B-Wing and what Sabine is doing flying the Phantom have to be coordinated. And I think Hera, so it's also a little bit about Sabine getting to be a good pilot as well.
Yeah. Or Hera getting to be a good leader, good teacher, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. justifying her becoming squadron leader.
Yes,
after
despite
getting
murdering
the squadron leader killed.
I didn't even like connect those dots, but yeah. Whoops.
She has an opportunistic approach to management development.
But I mean, like, it seemed like everyone was on board with getting like these supplies to Ibar, and it like, I don't know. That was maybe one thing that I didn't super like was like the Iberians when they're talking to them. It's very like, thank you, Phoenix Squadron. You've saved us all just in the nick of time. And like, I get it, but also like, you're laying it on a little thick. I don't know.
And it's one of those things with like a galactic battlefield that you're telling me that like no one else on this planet has food that they can get to these rebels on this mountain.
Yeah. Like you were our only hope. And it's just, I don't know. Yeah. It felt a little much and very like, oh, you're our saviors. And like, I don't know, getting a food run in to some rebels on a mountaintop is a good idea. People need food. Please give it to them. But like, yeah, it just felt a little cheesy, which I think cheapened it a bit. I can
see that. I definitely think that. I think this is my least favorite episode of the 3, and that's probably the biggest reason why.
Sure.
I think it was a really good episode still. Like I like a lot of it. I would still like probably enjoy it more than like it's a really good episode. I enjoyed it, but yeah, I think it definitely it felt the most like filler compared to the other 2.
Sure, yeah. I think I agree. Like out of the 3, I think it's my least favorite. But again, like my least favorite episodes of Rebels is still a great time. Yeah, right. Like it's still a great episode.
But it fills that B-shaped hole in your heart.
The B-wing shaped hole.
It's true. It's true. I mean, it is a fun thing to kind of get us introduced to that. So, all right. Any other last stuff to talk about with this episode, or just these 3 in general?
No, look for my Hondo fanfic coming soon.
Okay.
What the heck?
No, I'm kidding. That's just for me.
No self-insert going to be...
Sarah the pirate shows up.
Let's talk about let you all do some self-promotion, because I want to start out by saying one of the most well-received Christmas gifts that I gave this year was 2 coffee mugs that I got from the Sarah Hayashi Etsy store.
Yay.
Sarah, tell us about what you're doing these days with ceramics and Etsy.
Technically, it is the Riki Hayashi ceramics store. But anyway, I'm doing nothing now, which has been delightful. I took a kind of like Christmas break because the push to get a bunch of Christmas gifts made and done is nice. And like, yeah, I'm heading back next week. And yeah, I think I'll be back at the mugs game, and probably some little like conversation heart style items if you're looking to get something for your special someone on Valentine's Day or for after Valentine's Day, or just because. Don't let Hallmark tell you how to live your life. But yeah, my Etsy store is empty as of right now, but won't be for much longer. And you can find it. It's just Etsy/shop/Hayashi Ceramics.
Nice. Yeah, definitely check it out. The coffee mugs are great. I've got some ceramic pumpkins that we decided not to give as gifts because we just wanted to keep. So,
yay!
And Riki, I understand you are going to be breaking into the world of streaming.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of technical things to sort out, but I decided I just want to start making content for Pokemon Go, primarily for the PvP battling. Nice. I've also started doing some coaching of friends, and just to get a little practice, and then probably going to open up maybe a Patreon or something so that I can offer my coaching services as a PvP coach.
Nice.
So look for that. Follow me on Twitter at Wikipedia Go for updates, and yeah, pretty soon we'll start streaming.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely check that out. Like I said, I'm not sure if this will be released concurrently or after the Book of Boba Fett, but whether or not, if you haven't, either if it's coming out or just you want to go back, we're really having a lot of fun covering Book of Boba Fett on the same podcast. On my Superhero Ethics podcast, we're also doing a lot of great content. Check those out. You can find out, and more importantly, you can find both of those. More importantly, you can find out all the ways to contact us, because we would love to hear your thoughts on these episodes or Star Wars Rebels in general by going to theethicalpanda.com. Theethicalpanda.com. There you'll find our Twitter, our Facebook, our email. There's a contact form. all the ways to contact us. Let us know what you think about these episodes. Do you love them? Do you hate them? What do you think about the two Inquisitors and where they're going with that? Is the rule of two complete nonsense by now? Would love to hear your thoughts. So
send me your Hondo fanfic.
Send us your Hondo fanfic. We need to read it. I have myself, Riki, Sarah. Thank you all so much for being a part of this, and have a good day.
Yay. Chopper. So many good Chopper moments.